Hey guys, what's up? Like I said, this one's going to be about atheism and religion. It's a lot brighter than the other one because this one's I'm actually recording off of YouTube instead of recording it on my phone and sending it to YouTube. Again, cigars. This is my third video. And by the way, I don't promote smoking. I do it. Anyway, when it comes to religion, people can be complete and utter assholes about it. And I've seen it time and time again. They use it to judge. They use it to promote their brand of hatred. It's like what Richard Dawkins said in his book, God Delusion. You know, if I'm Republican and you're Democrat or vice versa, we can debate about that. Your favorite color is blue, mine's green, we can debate about it. You know, I can say the sky is blue, you could say no, it's baby blue, we can debate about it. If we talk about religion, it's somehow taboo. Why? Why can't we talk about religion? And they say because you can't. Because talking about religion is somehow it's something you don't talk about. Well, I'm going to. And like I said in my last video, and like I will always say, if you want to debate me, debate me. I don't care. Bring it. But like I said, your miracles will not work. To have extraordinary claims, you have to have extraordinary evidence. Like, I was listening to this one program that I listened to. It's called The Atheist Experience. One of my favorite hosts they have on there is called Matt Dillahunty. He's funny. He used to be an evangelical Christian. Was about to become a preacher and then just said no. And one of the things that I always say is, you know, I was raised in a kind of Christian family. You know, my mom read the children's Bible to us, which is literally the most censored version of the Bible. You know, we grew up thinking that the Bible was all pretty and pretty pictures and Moses and everything was all nice people and all that, but if you've actually read the book, none of these characters were good people. You know, Jesus wasn't even a good character. You know, he would tell people, hey, drop everything you own, drop your kids, drop your wives, and follow me, and you'll be right with God. Supposedly, Moses split the Red Sea. And, you know, I mean, in a storyline, that's great. You know, it's a great story. You know, a lot of that's all it is stories. You know, there's no evidence to anything in that book. In fact, one of the main stories that everybody talks about, which is the start of Christianity, was the story of the Good Samaritan, the story of the Sermon on the Mount with Jesus Christ, and that tells you right there. It was talking about the Good Samaritan, yet he was talking about a story that he heard from somebody else. It wasn't something he witnessed; it's something he heard. Just like the story of Jesus himself. None of these guys who were his supposed apostles were even around at the supposed time of this character. And I say character because, again, no evidence. Just the story of a young Jew. That's all it is. Number one. We'll start with the Jesus character because everybody loves Jesus, besides me. Number one, there's no evidence this guy even lived. Besides in this book. Number two, the Romans would not have crucified him. The Roman crucifixion was a Roman torture. It was a Roman way of killing and torturing. It was not a Jewish way. If the Jewish people, the Jewish rabbis or whatever, were going to kill him, they would not have crucified him like they did in the Bible. They would have stoned him. They would have tied him to a post, and everybody in that particular community would have threw stones at him until he died. That was the most common way of killing in my idea of murder. That's the way I look at it. That's the most common way of murder back in those days. It still is today. You know, people are like, oh, I wish it was like it was back then. All right, move to the Middle East. It's exactly how it was. The Middle East has not changed significantly in the last 2,000 years at all. You know, women have no rights, just like in the Bible, women have no rights. Women are subjugated to only having kids, taking care of the house, and shutting up. It's exactly how it is in the Middle East. And then, to quote Matt Dillahunty again, actually to quote the Bible, but he talks about it all the time, is the Bible promotes slavery. People are like, oh, no, it doesn't. Exodus 21, my friend. It tells you the logistics of buying and selling slaves. It even says that a male slave can get out after 7 years. A female slave is there for the rest of her life. In fact, it even says there is a loophole to this. If you give your male slave a wife and they end up having a child, then he is your slave for the rest of his life. And like I said, the story of Moses. In the story of Moses, we'll get back to the Jesus thing later. In the story of Moses, he was an adopted son to the Pharaoh. Ended up leaving, walking around the desert for like 40 days or something when he could have just turned right back around and went to civilization. Most likely hallucinating. Walks into a cave and a burning bush is talking to him. Nobody sees anything wrong with this. But okay, we'll keep going. He comes back, unleashes these plagues on the Pharaoh. Again, none of this was ever documented by the Egyptians themselves. The Egyptians and the Romans were some of the most educated people of the time. They would have recorded this. Same with the Chinese and everything. Anyway. After the Pharaoh says, okay, let your people go, they're walking through the desert. Again, nobody documented a bunch of slaves running through the desert. Pharaoh decides to get a wild hair up his ass and said, hey, I'm going to go and get this guy because he stole my slaves. Comes after him. Jesus splits the sea, runs through it with all of his slaves. This part of the story, and the rest of this part of the story is the part of the story you usually don't hear because it shows how vindictive God is. Moses goes up to Mount Sinai, all the way to the tippy top, which really isn't that high. Talks to God, gets the 10 Commandments. In this time, all of his Jewish brothers and sisters decide, you know what, Moses has been gone for a while, so let's make a bull out of gold and then we'll worship that. God gets livid, he gets pissed. And he sends Moses down in a rage. On this journey, on him going down Mount Sinai, he breaks the tablets, the 10 Commandments, the original 10 Commandments. Moses comes down completely pissed off, tells him to melt down the gold. They melt down the gold, puts it in food or whatever, makes them eat it, or melts it down, puts it in their water, makes them drink it, something like that. And then, if that doesn't make matters worse, God sends these people to another part of, like another settlement, if you will, to slaughter all the men, all the boys, all the women who have known men. But as for the young little virgin girls, take them as your slaves, take them as your sex buddies. It doesn't explicitly say that, but I mean, come on. What do they mean by, so you may know them? You're gonna fuck them. And this is the first time that this God character made people commit genocide. Anyway, Moses goes back up there, gets 10 replacement commandments, comes down, 10 commandments are made. Then you have the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is another one of those saying, basically it's scaring you into being celibate until marriage, which is funny because the Bible says feel free to procreate. You know, sow your oats prosper, have kids. But yet, it also says that that sex is disgusting, it is immoral and wrong. So even if you're having sex with your wife, who you married, say you didn't have sex till marriage, it's still bad. And if a woman is on her period, anything she touches, anything she wears, has to be burned. Anything that she sits on has to be burned, according to this book. In the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, an angel comes in, and all the people of Sodom are knocking on the door, bring him out so we may know him. So apparently they wanted to sodomize him. Well, that's why they call us a Sodom, I guess. Anyway, they sodomize this guy. They want to sodomize him, but the guy instead sends out his daughters in place of this angel. His daughters are raped and beaten until morning and left on the doorstep of the man. Him and his kids and everybody else leaves. And God says, well, don't look back. If you do, you'll turn into a pillar of salt. Physically impossible, but okay, whatever. Wife looks back, pillar of salt. The man and his two daughters go up into a cave. His daughters get him drunk and basically rape him. Which, I don't know about you, but if a man is too drunk, he's not going to get hard. It just won't happen. It's called whiskey dick for a reason. And back then, their alcohol was a hell of a lot stronger than the one we have. They didn't have regulations on their stuff. So when he was drunk, he was drunk. But apparently, he wasn't too drunk to realize that these were his daughters. He still had sex with them. His oldest and his youngest. And again, this isn't the first time that the Bible depicts ancestry. It does it all over the Bible. And then, the story of Adam and Eve. For one, in the story of Adam and Eve, the part that was ripped out of the Bible was the fact that Eve was not the first woman. The first woman's name was Lilith. Most people know her as a succubus, one who would lure in men with her sex and then steal their souls. If you read the parts that were ripped out of the Bible, not the Bible it's not part of the Bible that we read today because it's censored a little bit. In the original text, it says that Adam and Lilith were complete equals. Lilith was born of the earth just like Adam was. Adam didn't like it because Lilith was a free spirit. She didn't want to be controlled by Adam. So Adam bitched and complained to God. Eventually God gave in, which were his creations, yet he gave in to these idiots. Anyway, God gave in, sent Lilith out of the Garden of Eden, made her the succubus, the mother of all demons, if you watch Supernatural, she's the mother of all demons. Anyway, and these cigars suck at staying lit. Anyway, so Lilith is banished. Adam goes to sleep. Eve is made out of one of his ribs. Okay. Eve is now a slave. She is Adam's slave. She does everything Adam wants her to do. He puts them in a garden that had everything they wanted, every vegetable, every fruit you could think of. His only thing was, do not eat of this tree, the tree of good and evil. Most people are like, oh, it's the tree of evil. Technically, it was probably the tree of knowledge. If you get the unedited text, and trust me, it took a long time, very long time, for me to translate the old text, because I don't trust translations. I don't trust translations made by somebody else. I want to translate it myself. It's a challenge. I like a challenge. Anyway, in the exact translation, it was the apple of knowledge. It was a serpent. Doesn't necessarily mean a snake. A serpent. who is supposed to be the devil. It's kind of funny because if you look at it, the devil really isn't evil, according to this book. I mean, everybody swears up and down that the devil made me do this, the devil made me do that. The only thing the devil ever did that was quote unquote bad, was that he did not bow to the humans when God made them. Because if you remember, God first made his angels, and his first angel, his favorite angel, was Lucifer. Lucifer literally means bringer of light. Lucifer was the reason why we had light, according to this thing. Lucifer wouldn't bow down to God's creation, us. So God tripped him, said, oh, well, you can have as much power as me. Lucifer said, okay, and he sent him to hell. Made him the god of hell. If you look at it, Lucifer, if all these things that people do that's bad goes to Lucifer, that would mean that Lucifer, Beelzebub, whatever you want to call him, is more powerful than God. Because God said he can't intervene with humans because of the free will. Yet Lucifer can possess people. He can manipulate people to do what he or she wants, whatever dumb religion you believe. Okay. Then you skip halfway through the book, you get to the story of Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the main stories of Jesus. Again, these are the four apostles. Every one of these guys are supposed to have known him very well. They're supposed to follow him around like lost fucking puppy dogs. They couldn't even agree where he was born, what day he died, or what day he was born. None of them could. The earliest testimony of this Jesus character was Luke. And see, back then, a 35-year-old man was considered old age. Most men didn't live past 40. So when Jesus died at the age of either 33 or 36 or 37, whichever age range you believe, he was already basically dead anyway. Malnourishment, kids would die of their teeth in infancy. It was a terrible time to live. Yet he lived to 33. Okay. If you look at this, most people believe that Jesus was God. Not just the Son of God, that he was God. So picture, if you will, God came down as Jesus. For about 30 years, he really didn't do anything. Most of his miracles he did when he was a kid. And then it skips from him being a preteen, a prepubescent to a young teen, all the way up to when he's about to be crucified. Before he gets crucified, he's getting tortured. He gets lashed, he gets just trash tortured on it. Then he gets nailed to a cross. For starters, you can't nail someone to their hand to hold on to something. There's nothing there. It's just skin and meat. His hand would have slid off. They would have had to nail him to the wrist. That's where the bones are, right there in your palm. That would have held that nail there. Same with your feet. Again, nothing but cartilage, nothing but just meat in between your bones. They would have had to nail him right above his ankles or through his ankles. Again, Romans were extraordinary record keepers. None of them recorded this. Anyway, Jesus dies. And he dies for our sins, for the forgiveness of God. But Jesus was God. So that would mean that God came down, got tortured, got slaughtered, basically, for his own forgiveness. What can he just forgive? And if any of you have ever read the book, The God Delusion, yes, I am quoting Richard Dawkins out of this. He's an extraordinary writer and an unbelievably brilliant dude. If anybody ever tells me they got their moral from the Bible, there is no morality in the Bible. It's a book that is literally designed for you to basically be a sheep. It even says, my flock. A flock is either a flock of geese or sheep. He says sheep. He's the shepherd, we are the sheep. If that is the case, then that would literally mean that we don't amount to shit. I mean, hell, even in this book, it says that it refers to a woman as property. All of it does. Like, for the Ten Commandments, for one. The last one is a thought crime. When the one that says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor, the neighbor's ass, or thy neighbor's wife. They literally just compared a woman to property. And nobody sees anything wrong with this. And I always find it funny when you see women who are more religious than men. But this whole book is riddled with literally just destroying females. A woman will never amount to a man if you read this book and you go by the laws of this book. Women are basically slaves. And that's in this book. Right there in black and white and sometimes red. What the hell did I do with those cigars? Some damn pockets in this. Oh. I'll get my vape. Anyways. Now I've been told that I preach too much. I've been told that I've been accused of indoctrination, which is kind of ironic because I was accused of indoctrination by a preacher. That is a preacher's job, to indoctrinate people. To get them to blindly believe this shit. And it is shit. To blindly believe this crap. So you will follow in their path. So their church can make more money. That's all it is. And when we come to indoctrination, one of the greatest war generals, Alexander the Great, once said, if you want to get them to believe everything that you say and believe that you are God, you get them when they're young, when their minds are still malleable. Because when you're prepubescent, you really don't have, I mean, you have your own personality, but you don't have your own beliefs. You follow the beliefs of your family. Like when someone tells me I was born Catholic. No, you weren't. You were born an innocent child. You were brainwashed into Catholicism. Same with any other religion out there. You name it, these people were brainwashed into it. I mean, these people are literally told, hey, this is what needs to be said, this is what needs to be done, and you can't say anything. People were slaughtered by the millions over religious crap. We're going through a war right now for religion. They've been at war for centuries over there, over religion. The Jews and the Arabics. They've been going after each other for centuries because of religion. Oh, you believe this? Well, I believe that. We'll fight over it. No point. And see, one of the things that people always quote as a proof of a divine being or a divine creator is when they say that there was a miracle that happened. The only thing a miracle is something that can't be explained logically yet. I'm not saying it can never be explained, it just can't be explained yet. And why is it when science can't explain this at this time, they instantly invoke God into it? God has nothing to do with it. For starters, some religious people think the world is only 20,000 years old at most. You're a fucking moron. You know, there's flat earthers out there. Stupid. You know, if I walk up to somebody, and it's funny because when I go to the gas station up here, one of the people that work there, again, I don't name drop unless they're like family or, for lack of better saying, they don't give a shit. They've seen this. I will go in there, I'll have my ring on. I usually have it on, but I just got off work, so I don't have my rings on. I have my atheist ring on, and that's all I'll have. I mean, yeah, I have a tattoo on my arm, but it's usually covered by short sleeve shirts. It's fucking cold. I usually have my ring on. She has seen people walk up to me and just start chatting away about religion or sexism, or recently I heard this new thing about inherent racism. Inherent racism is bullshit. I can't be inherently racist. You know, for someone to say that you're inherently racist, and they always say that to a white man. I'm white, I'm a dude. And they say that I'm inherently racist because I'm white. Why? Where do you get off telling me that I'm inherently racist? I'm not racist. There's no point in being racist. It's the 21st century. Grow up. To hate somebody because of their religious faith, their sexual orientation, which again, homophobia came from religion, because of their skin color, or because of what they wear, is retarded. You know, I've met plenty of homosexual people, and they're some of the nicest people you ever meet. And not because they want to bend me over, it's because they're nice people. Now, I've met some homosexuals that were actually very religious, and it boggles me. It's like, every religion out there is oppressing the homosexual people, yet you're still religious. Okay. And when it comes to the Bible was voted on. Everything in that damn book that everybody reads was voted on. From Genesis to Exodus, everything was voted on. If anything that made Jesus look like a normal man, anything that seemed too far-fetched, they toss into a fire. They even put their own shit in there. In fact, the Bible that everybody's read, that even I've read, has had stuff put into it hundreds of years later. Not just a few years later after the whole Jesus character died. Hundreds of years later. There's been stuff that's been taken out. Like the stories of John, the Psalms of Mary Magdalene, which, in case you're wondering, was not a prostitute. There was a prostitute named Mary in the book. There was also a mother named Mary in the book. And then there was Mary Magdalene. This is going back to the Jesus thing. See, Jesus was known as a rabbi, teacher. In order to be a rabbi in the Jewish faith, you have to be married. You have to be. It's part of their religion. He was Jewish. You know, even if he did come from the family of David, which I don't see how that's possible, because if David was not his true father, then there's no way he would have came from the family of David. So the whole fallacy of the Khazar, or whatever you want to call him, wanting to slaughter these guys because he's afraid of an uprising because of a teacher from the family of David, it wouldn't have worked out, because if his father was actually God, David could not have been his father. Mary Magdalene, this is why I say she wasn't a prostitute. Granted, if you read the book and you don't read the book objectively, and you read it word for word, and you believe everything in it, for one, you're an idiot. And two, you're going to be led to believe, because this is what the preachers and everybody tells you, all these religious zealots tell you, that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. But women back then did not have last names unless they were married. Mary Magdalene, or Mary of Magdalene, rather, would have either been a very rich woman because of her husband's death, or she would have been a princess herself. That's the only way she could have walked around with Jesus. Because back then, a woman could not walk around without a male escort from her family. Just like today. I read something the other day in the news, the actual news, not the bullshit they sell to you on television. A 15-year-old girl in one of the Arabic communities over there was walking down the street, did not have an escort. And you have to have a male escort. You have to have a male of your family, or of your husband's family, or whatever. She was 15. She was walking to the store to go get some groceries, I'm assuming. These men raped her, viciously raped her. She went to the government over there and tried to turn them in. Instead of them punishing the dudes, they punished her, and they stoned her to death because she did not have an escort, saying it was her fault that she was asking for it. That is blaming the victim 100%. And they do that now. They blame victims for everything. They will always find a way to blame the victim or play the victim. Anyway, not my cigars. Anyway, back to the whole Bible story. There's a lot of stories in there. A lot of them. And it's just like what the late great George Carlin said, it's all bullshit and it's bad for you. You believe that a man up there is giving you the ability to do what you can do. You believe that God somehow singled you out. Say, for example, a lot of NFL players thank God. Baseball players thank God. Most sports people do. So you're saying that God came down, singled you out to be an amazing star instead of the other people. And when it comes to this inherent racism thing, like I said, I bounce. You're saying I'm inherently racist. You're saying America's racist. How? We had a black president. Most of the people in the NFL and the NBA are extremely wealthy people, and most of them are black. Baseball, most of them are Mexican or black. Most of them. UFC, some of the best fighters were black. Boxing, some of the most legendary fighters were Mexicans. How are we racist? How? Just because we don't nominate a certain person in a movie or a music video doesn't mean we're not racist. It just means the music or the video was crap. Like I said in my last video, music of today, most of it is garbage. Especially the rap game. It's all garbage. You know, like I said, if you got and you make $1 million off that, the people who are buying this stuff are mentally ill. You know, speaking of people that need help, I don't blame teachers for what kids learn today. I blame the curriculum that they have to teach these kids. So most people don't believe is teachers can't just walk in and teach you whatever they want. Teachers have to teach you a curriculum that the school provides. I asked some kids the other day, my sisters and some of the people that they go to school with, who do we fight in World War I? Or World War II, rather. They knew we fought Germany. They knew we dropped bombs in Iwo Jima, which was surprising because I'm surprised they even put that on there. Everything's so freakishly censored now. I'm surprised I haven't been blacklisted from YouTube yet for some of the stuff I say. Just wait, it probably will happen. Anyway, like I said, I don't blame teachers. I honestly do believe that teachers deserve to get paid more, because they're the ones who are pushing education onto the children that are going to further our country or destroy our country. By the way it's looking, by the time I'm 50 and most of these kids are out of high school and they're the ones voting and the ones that are supposed to be making this land better, I'm afraid. Because some of these kids are fucking retarded. And yes, I know there's going to be a lot of people out there, oh, that's anti-Semitic. You can't stay retarded. Why? It's a lot more extreme than dumb. And when I'm saying retarded, I'm not talking shit on mentally handicapped people. I'm not talking shit on people who have a mental disability. You know, I have a cousin that has that's mentally disabled. Sweetest girl you ever meet. And most of these mentally handicapped people are very, very, very loving people. They have a bar of love that we can't reach. Their love is so extreme on things. We can't reach that. They're the happiest people in the world. What do we need to be happy? Most people, especially gold diggers, and yes, there are some out there, they want a nice car. They want a big ass house. They want a lot of money. What does a mentally handicapped person need? Give them a lunchbox. Give them a yo-yo. They'll have a blast. They're non-materialistic people. And in my eyes, they're better than most people that work. Because they're kind. They're sweet. And they're extremely protective over their families. I've never met one that wasn't protective over somebody. When I was in school, there was a guy named John. He was mentally handicapped. If you actually talk to him, instead of going, oh God, he's drilling again. If you actually talk to the guy, he actually has intelligence. Most mentally handicapped people are intelligent in one thing or another. I met one that couldn't talk worth a damn. They would bottle up so much, they'd stutter so much, they just wouldn't talk. You gave this kid a guitar, he could play Mozart backwards. You gave him a piano, he can listen to something one time, play the whole damn song. Mentally handicapped. Couldn't talk, couldn't write, could barely write his own name. They said he had an education level of a kid in kindergarten, and he was my age. He was 16. He was a musical genius. I've met women like that too. And about the religion thing. Religious people think that mentally handicapped people, midgets, basically anybody that isn't part of their little clique is evil. If I was doing this video 100 years ago, I would have been hung for what I'm saying. Because I'm speaking the truth and they don't like it. It's like I said, the truth hurts. If it's hurting you, it's because, honestly, you truly believe it. You're just too chicken shit to say anything. And I thought it was funny. I was at Walmart, this was a while back ago, I was getting an oil change for my car. And this guy, he's a pastor. He also works in the mechanic part of Walmart. And me and my wife were there. We were waiting on the oil change, talking to him. He's like, you should come to my church on Sunday. I was like, I don't think that would be a good idea. And don't get me wrong, I'll go to church. It doesn't hurt me. It's not like I'm going to burn. I go to support my dad. That's how he makes a living. But you should go to my church. I'm not sure that'd be a good idea. So, well, why not? And I was like, I tried to sugarcoat it because I didn't want to start an argument. He said, why? I said, because I don't think I would fit in your church. He said, well, we're Lutheran. You'll fit in just fine. No, I won't. He kept hounding me for about 5 minutes. And I told him, I was like, dude, I wouldn't fit in because I'm an atheist. His first thing he said wasn't, oh, okay. His first thing was, no, you're not that dumb. I'm an atheist because of education. If I was a dumb ding-dong, then yeah, I probably would be religious. I'd believe in this blind stupidity. But the analytical mind I have in betwixt my ears will not let me believe in this crap. I mean, yeah, I wish I could tell lies to people and make a shit ton of money. I love to be a politician. I mean, a preacher. Same thing. No, I love to be one of these guys because you make a shit ton of money telling people lies every Sunday. Doing faith healing. Anybody who's religious out there, let me ask you this one question before I'm done with this video. It's the last thing I'm going to say. Or more, it's a statement and a question in one. Say you never heard of religion at all until you were about junior in high school, sophomore, junior in high school. Would you believe it? Or would you do the same thing that we do with the Greek gods, the Roman gods, the Egyptian gods, and all the other gods? Cult mythology. I want you to think on that. Put it in a comment. I'll answer. I ain't got anything else better to do. But honestly, think about that before you answer. I guarantee if you actually think about it, you won't have the balls to say, yes, it's mythology. Because then you'd be going back on everything that you were blindly following to begin with. That was forced down your throat when you were a kid. By your parents or whoever is taking care of you. And like I said, I have nothing against religious people. It's like I wrote on my toolbox at work. I write on my toolbox. There will be peace between atheists and the religious community once they stopped indoctrinating kids. They stopped telling me that I'm wrong. Like I said, the burden of proof is on you. It's not on me. You have to prove to me that your Messiah exists. I don't have to prove to you that he doesn't exist. To be honest, all the evidence is to the contrary, that he does not exist at all. Or never did. I mean, granted, Jesus was a very popular name back then. But if you can honestly prove to me without these dumb miracles or faith healing, which doesn't work, there's been studies that have proven it doesn't work. If you can prove to me without a shadow of a doubt that this stuff exists, that God actually exists, I'll take it under consideration. Only because everything should be able to be talked about. Everything should be able to be analyzed logically. Once you throw religion into something, it is not logical. It is an illogical mess of ideology and crap. That's all it is. Thanks again for watching my video. If you watch it, I know it's a little longer than the other two, but whatever. Again, my name is Joshua May, Bowler Cap Guy. Just like and subscribe.